Hi, my angels. Today I want to offer up a Reiki session for the fear of being seen. So, this is a tough one. This is something that has come up a lot recently for me personally and in my communities that I am a part of, in women's circles that I've taken part in, and in my collective at large. It's been showing up. And is just kind of a common running thread that has been weaving itself through the way that I want to show up today, and the way that I want to show up in my Reiki business, and the way that I want to show up for all of you beautiful people. So let's work on that together. I'm Kimia. I'm a writer, Reiki master practitioner, and an intuitive, and I am actively drawing in new like-minded souls into my community. That is something that's been a big theme of my life lately this year and in recent years, but it's really been growing. So, and apologies for the noise. There is an expressway right behind me, so you may occasionally hear the sounds of cars. But I did want to say this is a new endeavor for me, creating on YouTube, and so many of you have already shared really lovely and encouraging comments and constructive feedback. Please know that I am absolutely taking this all in and striving to be a better creator. And it's really all a learning curve for me right now. So feel free to continue doing that. And even if you choose not to engage with a comment, a like is so helpful. And if you really like my Reiki ASMR vibes, then please subscribe. So let's go ahead and get started with some cleansing. I will actually go ahead and light some incense first. Just relaxing into the session. Taking some deep and cleansing breaths. And just allowing yourself to be here with me, really dropping in. And I have the cutest little incense holder. So just starting out with cleansing your aura. As you continue to take those deep and restorative breaths, ensuring that your exhales are longer than your inhales. And I just have this shell that I used to use for sage, but I use sage less these days, much less, if at all, just because it is so over-harvested. And if you are using sage in your spiritual practice, you really want to make sure that your sage is ethically sourced. We do not want to be taking away from the indigenous communities that use sage in their practices. It's something that's really important to me. So just using this as a little container to hold the dregs of the incense. And let's see, I will go ahead and do some sound cleansing as well with my rattle. Really calming our nervous system down so that we can show up as our entire selves and so that we can release our fear around being seen as our whole and entire self, including the shadow, including the parts of us that we may not always enjoy, that we may sometimes point fingers of judgment at. Allowing ourselves to relax the hold a little bit at this time. And understanding that even the lower vibrational parts of us are a part of us, and that we need their medicine. So before we get into the Reiki portion of this video, I did want to read something that I wrote about the fear of being seen. I think I'll just dive into that now. So cozy up. I hope you're comfortable. I'm having to re-record this part because someone's gardener was really getting their money's worth today. And again, I apologize for any background noise. It's ironic, I've attempted to share this message multiple times, and every time, and I do feel like sometimes this happens when I get really dialed in or the channeling is really strong, but it felt like my background noise went on the fritz, or whenever I want to share a really important message, or a message that is deeply aligned from source energy, it's like the phones can't always handle it. Or something happens and it's like the universe is wanting to test that I really want to put this message out there. They say the magic you are looking for is in the work you've been avoiding. Making the decision to show up differently can be scary. Making the decision to show up at all. But making yourself small, refusing to show up as your whole entire badass self, flaws and shadow and all, is just not sustainable. Right? Shrinking that down, just not sustainable in the long term. Maybe it feels safer in this moment, but eventually it'll manifest in your body. Eventually your soul will revolt. It's okay to be afraid to share your voice and your vision and your whole self with the world. And it's okay to still feel anxious or afraid doing whatever it is that you want to be doing. Maybe it's being open and candid when you're sharing on a video like this one, or choosing to share your intuitive gifts with the world. There are so many valid reasons to be afraid. We don't have to let them make us contract. We can choose to show up differently. If the magic we've been looking for is in the work we've been avoiding, then let's not avoid it any longer. So sending you Reiki support in feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Being afraid or uncomfortable and showing up anyway. Feeling the fear of being seen and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Reminding ourselves that it's okay to be afraid. Like I said, there are so many valid reasons to be afraid, but we don't have to contract. Or when we feel ourselves contracting, reminding ourselves that it's okay to open back up again. And remembering that when we show up, we give others permission to do the same, to step into their gifts and authentic self-expression from a place of such empowerment. Because such is the nature of our reality. It is punctuated by duality. And when we know what it is to contract, we can know what it is to expand. We have our desires for a reason. Because our future selves or ourselves on other timelines have those things, have those desires, have those manifestations brought into their 3D realities. When we feel fear and we choose to show up anyway, and when we build consistency in that decision to show up, we're also creating momentum. We're moving forward in the direction of building the lives of our dreams. And what a beautiful thing that is. What a necessary medicine. And a needed. And something that is sorely needed in our world. Just some little mini quartz crystals in here. Thought it might be a nice trigger. And also working with this energy to amplify. Quartz is a master healer. So even though they're miniature, I don't know if you can see them well, but there's some rose petals in there too. You are so needed. Your art is needed. Your heart is needed. Your magic and medicine are so potent and so sacred. Your time has come. Something that I learned from sitting with plant medicine with grandmother ayahuasca. When I sat in ceremony with her, I showed up in such a place of fear. I remember thinking on a loop, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. And I heard her voice say to me, well, then be afraid. Befriend that fear. Embrace that fear. It's when you do that that you stop allowing it to be so loud that it's controlling you. We're not always going to be able to completely remove our fear, right? I mean, bodily wisdom aside, well, actually not aside, sometimes there's a wisdom of the body that we can't fully understand or cognize. And that's as it should be. But there is also sometimes old stories that come up that tell us we're not safe because there were scenarios and there were settings and there were events that occurred, sometimes traumatic ones in the past, that we didn't feel safe in. Rightfully so. And there's a medicine in that fear too. We don't want to look away from it. We don't want to try to avoid it or repress it because its volume will increase. When we do that, if we're not working with it in our shadow or our unconscious, like the Carl Jung quote, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our life and we will call it fate. Ooh, that one always gives me like a full body chill. It's so sacred, it's so resonant, it's so powerful. Just starting to wind down this session. And sending you so much love and support and healing wherever you are on this path of yours. Your story is so valid. You deserve to share it. Just going to do the last little cleanse of your aura. A little bit more Florida water. So you leave our session feeling nice and purified and ready to go share your voice. With so much love and gratitude and deep belly breaths.